And welcome back to my channel. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly metal. My favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. We leave our bloopers in here. And we're going to continue on with, I'm kind of excited to talk about this one. I had so much fun with this movie. It was really cool. I call it Christine's Big Brother. And this is The Toy Box. Now, The Toy Box was released. The Toy Box was released in 2018. And I swear I only drank root beer, okay? But it was released in 2018. It's directed by Tom Nagel. It was written by Jeff Denton and Jeff Miller. And it stars Denise Richards. If you don't know who that is, that's the girl from Starship Troopers. And Mischa Barton and Jeff Denton. Yes. So, the toy box opens with what appears to be a forensic cleaning. In other words, the cleaning up of a crime scene in an RV. You know, like a Winnebago, an RV. A caravan, as we call them. So, you see that. And then it switches to you seeing a caravan on the side of the road in what looks like a suburban neighborhood. And this little kid, he's 13, he's riding down the road on his bicycle. He's riding down the sidewalk. And he rides by this RV. And the door just suddenly pops open. So, being a dumbass, he stops and he kind of backs up and he starts walking over to the door, and I'm like, you probably really shouldn't do that. I mean, granted, you don't know you're in the opening scene of a horror movie, but you know, so he's curious and he looks in and he actually goes up in it, and then he starts to turn around and walk out. And just scares the shit out of you, right? Because he is just suddenly grabbed and pulled in, and the whole RV is just shaking, and the lights are coming on and off, and he's screaming, and he's being thrown all around the RV, and blood is splattering all over the windows, and I'm like, wow, fuck. Whoever made this movie has no problem with killing kids. You know what I'm saying? So then the next day, we continue on, and it's at the same place. Like, this just happened. It's the next day. And you're introduced to this kind of a little estranged family. You have the father, George. You have brothers, Steve and Jay. So you have the brothers Steve and Jay. Steve's wife, Jennifer, that's Denise Richards, and their daughter, Olivia. And they are going to go on a desert drive. A road trip. They're going to go on a road trip. Sort of like because the mother has died recently. So I guess this is his way of the father wanting to get the two brothers and him back together. So they're going on this road trip. Now, of course, the first thing you thought was, wait a second, wasn't blood saturating this fucking place just a few hours ago? You know what I'm saying? So the mystery begins, right? Now, right before they load into the caravan to take off, you see this car pull up, and stops them in the road as they're walking across, because this is a suburban neighborhood. So this woman pulls up in a car, and, he's like, I think it was Steve, is like, hi, can I help you? And she's like, yeah, I'm looking for my son. He's about 13 and he was riding a bike and he hasn't come home from last night. And you're like, oh, he's not going to come home. I hate to tell you, but I don't think he's going to be coming home. So they all take off, and you sort of get to know them. You get to know her, Jennifer, Jen. You get to know that that things are a little strained between Jay and Steve, and they're all strained with the father. They obviously have some kind of issue about he supposedly abandoned the family years earlier, and now the mom's dead. So there's a lot of tension there. Now, as they're going, and we learn we get used to their characters and the idiosyncrasies of their characters, getting to know them. Weird little things start occurring, like the windows won't open, and then they will. And when they did get the window open, she's over here cooking, and the daughter, Olivia, is at the window, wanting air on her face. And, she keeps telling her, sit down in the seat, don't be hanging out the window like that. And then you see the window sort of like trying to close, and you're like, is this some supernatural shit? Is this some Stephen King, Christine shit? Is this RV the villain in this movie? And it nearly takes her fingers off when it slams shut, the window. So you start getting this idea that okay, it's like supernatural or something is going on here. And you start also seeing little flashbacks. And, I'm explaining it to you as I figured this out, or as the thoughts that were coming to me while I was watching it. I start suspecting, I'm like, from the flashbacks, it's like, did some bad shit go on in here? Like, was this the property of a serial killer? Is that what this is? And he murdered a lot of victims in here? Is that what's going on? So it's like a haunting? But things continue. Like I said, I like the pacing of how they slowly get you aware that something's fucked up with this caravan. In other words, the little things get bigger and bigger, the little things that it's doing to them. The little accidents and stuff. We do get some extra characters in that they find a broken down car on the side of the road. And him being a nice guy, he stops to help, And at first they can't find them, but then they do. And it's a girl and her brother. So it's a brother and sister. The sister is Mischa Barton's character. So after they freak out a little bit, it kind of scared them. They say, well, we can give you a ride. And she's a mechanic. He don't know shit about cars, but she's a mechanic. Which is interesting, the pretty blonde chick is actually a top-notch mechanic, which was kind of an interesting little side trivia, So she can't figure out what's wrong with the car. She thinks they've blown a gasket, right? So they need to get it down. So he says, well, okay, we'll go. We'll give you a ride to the next town, but we do have to make one stop off. And that is that we wanted to go to this cave, cave drawings kind of thing. So they turn down this road, and they drive way longer than they should. And everybody's like, we're supposed to be there by now. Well, that's when, when they start to turn around, the RV is like, no, we're not going to turn around. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take control now, and I'm going to play, Boxcar Willie. You know what I'm saying? Because it floors it. And it actually causes a little, not a crash in that they roll over or flip or anything, but they're going so fast that when they do crash to a stop, it actually kills the brother of the girl that they picked up. It snaps his neck on the countertop, which you see, and it was a very good effect. So things are really starting to get intense now. Now you have a dead guy. They don't understand what happened. Of course, George is being blamed, right? I mean, you were fucking driving. And he's like, but I did not. I couldn't get the brakes to work, and the gas was, pressed down, and it wouldn't stop. So he's like feeling really guilty, but he knows he didn't do anything. He doesn't understand. And nobody believes him, of course. So she's extremely upset. Of course, because she just witnessed the death of her brother. And of course, they can't get it to start. It won't start. So she, being a mechanic, she gets out there and she tries to figure out what's wrong. Problem is, being a top level mechanic, she's stumped because this should be working. I can find nothing wrong that should stop this thing from cranking up. Well, we've started to figure out, right, that no, there's probably nothing mechanically wrong with this bitch. Spiritually, there's something wrong with this, but not mechanically. So it takes its next bit of revenge or evil or whatever it's doing when George thinks he sees something in the engine, because he's out there trying to help, and he's got his arm stuck up in there in the engine, and I'm like, you know what, that is probably not a good idea. And sure enough, it cranks up with his arm in there, and it slices his arm all up, which was nice and gory, but it doesn't kill him. But it definitely fillets his arm. So we have that. Everybody is now getting more and more afraid, suspicious, They continue to try to work on the car, the RV, but everything is really getting to all of them. They are also beginning to see more and more of these visions. And it's the visions of, just like I said, it's a visions of this maniacal serial killer who reminded me of Longlegs. I mean, he looked like a cross. If you took that crazy guy in Silence of the Lambs and bred him with Longlegs, that's what this dude looked like, right? And you keep seeing visions of him horribly torturing and murdering women. And Jen is seeing these visions, and the other girl, she is also seeing these visions more and more realistically. Finally, Jen, who's in there by herself, the TV, which had not worked before, comes on and actually shows her a murder scene. And this guy, in other words, it's showing a videotape where this guy taped his own murders. So, what's the next one? The next one is, like I said, remember what I told you about this movie having no problem killing kids? Okay. So, she's outside trying to relax from these visions that she's seeing. Her daughter found a jump rope, or what appeared to be like a jump rope. We know that it was not used for that, however. But so she's out there playing with it, and she's behind the thing in the van. The woman and George and them are still looking at the engine, trying to get it. Jay is sitting in the driver's seat, and it won't crank. They keep messing with it, and every once in a while they'll ask him to try to turn it over and stuff like that. Well, you've got all this creepy shit that goes on. And also, interesting is like whenever someone's outside of the RV, sometimes they can see someone looking out the windows and shit like that, you know. So everybody's really spooked. Well, all of a sudden, the RV cranks up, throws itself in reverse, with Jay sitting there going, what the fuck? And it just backs up and just crushes Olivia, the little girl. I guess she's about 8 or 9. Kills her. Crushes her under a RV. And you can see that kind of crap on WPD if you brave enough. So, having seen it for real, I you know, it's in my head. And I'm like, oh, that was that was nasty to do to that little girl. So now, of course, as you can imagine, they're blaming Jay. So George has been blamed for killing that girl's brother. Jay is now, Steve wants to kill him because you just ran over my daughter. And it's all bullshit, right? It's all bullshit because none of them are doing anything. They're being picked off one by one, basically, is what's going down. So there's a lot of really scary scenes. And then it finally decides that it's time to reveal, you know? Because as you can imagine, Jen is like really fucked up because her daughter's dead under the RV. She starts telling them about the visions. And the other girl admits it as well. They start looking around the RV and like way back hidden, like, you know, if you open the cabinet, but you go way back in the cabinet, there's stuff in there. They find knives, which they take out as obviously the killer's knives. And they find photographs, Polaroids, of these horrible murdered women and the scenes of their remains. So they're all kind of freaked out and they're like asking the dad, like, where did you get this thing from? Because this is like a hugely widely known serial killer case, right? And in the glove box, they find the registration and it's the name of that serial killer. And they were like, but I remember the cops saying that this van, out of respect for the families, was destroyed. Who did you get this from? So he had bought this RV off of someone who had gotten a hold of this serial killer's van. Now that they kind of all know, because, you know, it's ridiculous to say it, just like they would have in Christine, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous to say it, but they're like, something is going on here of a supernatural origin. This RV is possessed. Or he's in here, his spirit's in here, whatever it is. And right about the time that they all like come to the conclusion that that really must be what's going on, Rusty got a surprise. Now, the scene, I guess it's almost like the RV got angry, you know, and the first thing the RV did was like turn on the TV and it showed them. So now all of them were seeing this vision together. So like no one could deny it, right? You know, it's certainly not a group hallucination. This is like being shown. And it's him torturing and killing a girl and dancing around like that guy from Silence of the Lambs. And you're like kind of freaked out by that. And then all of a sudden, it happened so fast that the RV just like cranks up, freaks out, jerks back and forth, making the knives that Jay is holding on the table go right through his head. And let me tell you, I even wrote it. Notice I haven't even paid attention to my notes, but yeah, I yelled out loud, been quite a while. Scared the shit out of me. It did. Now, you have to remember, horror hounds like myself, we like to be scared, or we wouldn't be watching horror movies. But over the years and our lifetime, we've learned how to express it. We enjoy the jumps and stuff like that, but there's not a whole lot of tried and true to the bone horror hounds that scream like a bitch out loud. It's just, we've learned to do it, let it out in another way. However, it can occur, and that scene jump scared me and freaked me out that I like really yelled out loud. What did I do? I think I screamed, oh fuck, what the hell was that? Something like that, but I screamed it like really loud. Oh fuck, what the fuck was that? And he's sitting there with his knife sticking out, and I was just like, no way, dude. That's been a while since you made me scream out loud. You know what I'm saying? So, it definitely got a bonus point just for that. Because I mean, you can jump scare me. I'm easy to jump scare. And I will jump and move and flip. But screaming out loud really isn't my thing. I don't squeal. But I screamed when that happened. Out loud. Like a bitch. So that got me. So that was fucking horrible. That was fucked up, and I did not expect that. So now you're basically down to them, because it isn't no time before they fucking find Jen, who's been strangled to death. We see her strangulation scene because she was in the van alone. So this was right before this happened. She was in there, and she actually seen the serial killer, and he attacked her, and he strangled her to death with that rope, and then made it look like she had committed suicide. And they were already like going, no, there's no way she would have done that. Besides, you can't do that. You can't just stand there and do that, because you will pass out. If you don't have it like tied and knotted and something, you can't just do that to yourself. You'll pass out before you die. You can't complete it that way. So, after all of this, there's nobody left but George, the girl, the mechanic, and Steve. Well, George is like, well, one of us has got to try to make it to the highway. It's like, well, you can't. It's fucking 30 miles that way. How would you, no water in the desert? Hello, desert, you're going to die. But we have to. There's no other choice. Somebody's got to go for help. So him feeling so guilty, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to make it across 30 miles of desert with an arm that looks like fish fillets? Come on. But it don't matter, because he don't get very far anyway. Because the spirit, it doesn't possess Steve, but it possesses his arm like a puppet. And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. Something's got a hold of me and it won't stop. And it like took at the top of his dad's head off with the fucking revolver. And I'm like, oh, well. Gunther is not going to let you go. I remember his last name was Gunther. But, it's like, Gunther isn't going to let y'all go. You know what I'm saying? So he is so upset by what he did that he then picks up the gun and puts his own mark on the ceiling. You know what I mean? Top of his head is gone. Leaving her by herself. So the mechanic is the last one left alive. And you're like, well, how the fuck is she going to get out of this? Then you start seeing a whole lot more clarity of those horrible murder scenes. And he's like not even hiding now. I mean, why would he hide now? Because she's alone. So who's she going to tell? So he like literally corporally comes back and and tries to kill her. However, she does realize something. And that is that this demonic spirit, this entity, and this RV are connected, right? Well, obviously. But, so instead of trying to hurt him, why don't you hurt the RV? So I'm like, well, that's a good idea. And she's like stabbing the walls and stuff. And I also think it might be because it was his own knives as well. But that's actually hurting him, hurting this demon, this entity. And so you think maybe she's found a way to either end him or get away or something like that. But I don't think so, because there's like this gigantic explosion of him where he's screaming and stuff like that. And it's so powerful it like knocks her into the back bedroom and slams the door. And then all is quiet outside. And you're like circling the RV. And you're like, okay, well, what's up? What's coming next? And then you hear dirt bikes. And I'm like, oh my God, maybe she'll be rescued, right? So these two guys, they pull up on a dirt bike. And it's really cool little scenes. The scenes are really cool. You know, the tension of them like looking at each other like, is this abandoned? Like, what do we do? And the door's open. So he's like, well, check it out. So he goes in, and the whole time you're just like prepared to absorb the jump scare. And like nothing happens. But then he's gone for too long. You're like, here it comes. And instead he pops out the door with a couple beers and he's like, all is good. You know, and you're like, oh, well, then that bitch didn't make it out because he didn't find her dead body or nothing. So I think it like absorbs them or something, right? Because where's all these bodies? Just like the little boy at the beginning, right? It was the very next morning when they're packing up to leave, and that place was a bloodbath. So I think it like absorbs it. But, so when he has the two beers, the other guy smiles, and then, you know, he goes into the RV, and then I guess they're looking around at what they can get, and they start to walk out the door, and they're both like jerked back, and the door slams, and the fucking credits roll, and I'm like, oh, okay. So what this motherfucker gonna do? Is just gonna sit out there in the desert and wait for dirt bikers to come by to get its thrill? You know? So this dead serial killer has like merged with this RV and is like using it to entrap people and get more victims and continue its career. So, yeah. I gave this a 7.9 out of 10. I absolutely loved this movie. This movie was really fun, you know, and it was something new. Like I said, I called it Christine's Big Brother. Because it's not exactly the same, but it is derivative. It is a clone. You know, it's a possessed vehicle, or he's using the vehicle as a weapon. Either way, it's supernatural and it's connected. I think the cast did really good. I really liked the mechanic lady. She was pretty cool. Steve and Jay were cool. Denise Richards was cool. I didn't recognize her name, actually, until I saw her face, and I'm like, I know her. Who's that? Who is she? She's somebody I know. I know she's somebody I know. She's a lot older, but I know she's somebody I know. And then when I went and looked at her credits, it said Starship Troopers, and I'm like, that's it. Because I love Starship Troopers. I've seen that 50 times. I've got the 4K and everything. I love Starship Troopers. So I'm like, I knew those eyes from somewhere. That's that chick from Starship Troopers. But, yeah, this was like really, really good little indie horror movie. It's new, it's different. It's a clone of a pretty cool little subgenre, you know, the possessed vehicle type thing. I had a great time with this movie. And that does it for this one. I highly recommend this movie. I think they did great works with the practical effects. Lots of blood. Very gory kills. And you really do kind of get into it wondering what the fuck would you do? You know? I mean, because they basically did. You know how in horror movies you have those moments where you're like, that was a stupid move and you shouldn't have done that? You know, we're all used to that. Pretty stupid people doing really stupid things in horror movies is a trope. It's the thing. Making stupid decisions. But I found none. I don't recall them really doing anything that I wouldn't have done, except I don't really like road trips like that. I wouldn't be out in the fucking middle of the goddamn Sahara Desert looking for a fucking cave to look at pictures on the wall. It's just not my thing. So, but that's just personal. That doesn't have anything to do with being a stupid decision. I think that they came to the correct conclusions when it was time for that normal people would have suspected that something was going on. When the little things were happening before, the RV did it in a way that it did seem plausible. The wreck seemed plausible. You know, they started getting suspicious when normal people would have gotten suspicious. So, yeah, I mean, I think the script was really good. I had a lot of fun with it. So if you run across it, somewhere to watch or somewhere to support and buy, definitely give it a shot. It's called The Toy Box from 2018. That's the naughty van right there, RV. And yeah, it's very, very fun. Very fun movie. Gave you the gore. Gave you the jump scares, gave you the interesting idea. It was a fun movie. And that's all that I ask, is just give me some fun. Love you, miss you, bye-bye. Always remember, I never forget, you are a very, very special person, and I will see you in the next one of this block. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for your time.